All right. Pretty much every time this topic is, brought up in any of the various discussion forums that the community utilizes, I just get tilted off the face of the earth. Like, it just pisses me off to no end. So that's why, today, I'm going to explain why everyone is fucking moronic. Now, rankings. Rankings are a thing that, the CSGO community, they really like them. People like their rankings. But guess what? No one understands them. They don't know what they are, what they're telling you, how they are made, how they work. None of it. None of it. So, I'm going to start off, just go down to the basics. What is a ranking? What is it? Alright, well, it's an ordered list of items. So you can rank a lot of different things. You can rank, restaurants that you like to go to. You can rank your favorite peripherals for your computer. Or you can rank CSGO teams. And for CSGO teams, you're generally ranking achievements over time, right? Over some unspecified time period. Well, not unspecified, but some chosen time period. Which teams accomplished the most things? Who had the best achievements over this time period, right? That is what a ranking is, okay? That is just the definition. So you can choose a lot of different time periods. You can choose any time period that you'd like. You can choose all of CSGO, okay? So all of CSGO, ranking the best accomplishments. Okay, if we're going by lineup, that would generally translate to, okay, who are the best lineups of all time? Alright, so that means you're looking at, 2015 Fnatic. Okay, won 2 majors, dominated for a while, could have won 4 majors. Thorn made a video about that recently. They could have won 4 majors in a row. Alright. You can also, maybe like the original NIP could be in there. Okay. Okay, we can look at 1 year as our time period. Okay, who was the most accomplished team, best achievements over 2017? If you do specific lineup, maybe it's going to be Astralis, because they had the same lineup the whole year. They made tons of top 4s and all that. Okay. Or if you're just looking at cores, it could be like SK or FaZe, one of those two. Okay. Then the very common one that people like to get attached to is 3 months. It's a nice time value because it's a quarter of a year, right? It doesn't have to be the last 3 months necessarily. It could be any 3 months, right? There's 3 consecutive months, and seeing who has the best accomplishments over those 3 months, right? Generally, it's used as the last 3 months because it's supposed to be like a rolling ranking that you update every 3 months, or every however amount of time, you're looking at the last 3 months. So, as the time now, okay, first I want to clarify, this is the most important point, the most important thing for people to take away from this. All of these types of time periods and rankings that I've described so far, they do not tell you who the best team is right now, or who the best team is at the end of the specified time period. That is not what they tell you. Right? The last 3 months, ranking who has the best accomplishments over the last 3 months, will sometimes align with who the best team is now. The number ones might be the same. And that's because form doesn't change that fast. At least not on the top. But you have to make the distinction. That is not what they are saying. Now, as time decreases, right, as you are looking at a shorter and shorter time span, and you from the presumption that it's from the last X amount of time, so from now back that amount of time. As you shrink that amount of time, you get closer and closer to who truly is the best team right now. Right? So if you're just looking at the last week, okay, the last week of the results will pretty much tell you who the best team is like at this moment. Now, granted, like, we don't have like LANs every single week, and not everyone is playing every week, so that like it's not obviously feasible. This is just like in theory. As you shrink the time, you get closer to who's the best team right now. And so for the purposes of like this thought experiment, when you hit 0 time, that is telling you who the best team is right now. A ranking that utilizes a 0 time length would be one that tells you who the best team is right now. Now, it's obviously like doesn't make sense because you can't rank based on no achievements. If nothing has happened, then you can't rank the teams. But this ranking, which does tell you who the best team is right now, sometimes they're called power rankings. These are rarer than the other types of rankings. They don't happen as often, especially in esports. And the rankings that you have in your head right now are not power rankings, believe it or not. So power rankings, even in like traditional sports, they're generally used before like a busy time period or like a tournament or something, and they're like there to tell you who's going to be the best in the upcoming. It's sort of like a predictive aspect, right? So the top experts in the field are telling the like fans or followers who maybe don't follow the game as intently as they do, or don't have the same understanding as they do of the game, and that expert's sort of telling them, okay, these are the best teams right now, and this is what their form is going to look like in the future, right? So power rankings are generally used in a predictive manner. All these other rankings, which the rankings that you are thinking of right now fall into this category, do not do that. They are not predictive in nature. They tell you what has taken place, right? They tell you about the past. Now let's give some examples, right, of some rankings. So these are just, basic examples, and this is leading into the next section, right? So we just have Team A. So over some X amount of time, some unit time, we have 5 completely identical tournaments. They're the same in every way. Team A wins all 5 of them. Team B places second at all 5, and Team C places third through fourth at all 5. Okay, that's pretty obvious how the teams are going to be ranked over that time period. Over the time period of those 5 tournaments, Team A was the best team. That's undeniable. Now, okay, maybe in this scenario where Team A wins 3 of the events, places second at 2 of them, Team B wins 2 of them, places second at 2 of them, third, fourth at 1, and then Team C is second at 1, third, fourth at 4. Okay, I would still, say the same order applies to ABC in terms of achievements. But, there's a little bit of wiggle room there, right? Then this last one is just to show how nuance exists in, ranking teams. You can't just use one metric. Okay, Team A places second at all 5 events. Team B places first at 2 events, third through fourth at 3 events. And then Team C is first at 3 events, 5th through 8th at 1 event, and below 8th at 1 event. So now there's like, extra layers, okay? Team C has the most titles, but, they dropped below top 4 twice, they dropped below top 8 once. So, are they necessarily the best over that time period, right? Maybe it matters in which order they did it. Now, I would argue for these purposes, the order doesn't matter of the tournaments, but that could be, something you use in your, weighting. Now, this leads into weighting of tournaments. Now, in real life, obviously, not every tournament is identical. Now, there are a lot of things that go into every single result of every single team. Things that you would consider their accomplishments or achievements. There's a lot of factors, right? So let's just go through the different factors that affect a tournament. Okay, the team composition of the tournament. Which teams are there? Do you have the 16 best teams in the world at the tournament? Or do you have the best 4 and then teams 10 through 22, right? Because those would affect how you view any result that happens at that tournament. Okay, how many teams are there? Are there just 2 teams, or are there 16 teams? Is a second place at a 2-team tournament the same as a second place at a 16-team tournament? Those are going to affect how you weight the results. Okay, what's the prize pool? Is it just like $1,000 and a PC? Is it $10,000? Is it $1 million? That's going to affect, right? And the thing is, all these things affect each other as well, right? If you have $1 million, you're probably going to get a better team composition. You probably have more teams, right? Is it a major or not? Even if all the other aspects are the same, just it being a major will change how you view the result. All right. How about the timing of the tournament? Okay, 2 examples where timing had an effect on how the results are viewed. Okay, back in 2016, DreamHack Masters Malmo took place right after the MLG Columbus Major. I actually wasn't last year, that was in 2016. Jesus Christ. And if you remember, Luminosity, the team we all know and love, that is now SK, 4 out of 5 of them at least, they won the major. And immediately after at Malmo, they went out in the group stage by losing to Tyloo in a best of 3. Okay, well, I mean, after Malmo, everyone wasn't calling for a roster change in Luminosity. It wasn't that big a deal, actually. Because, I mean, they obviously went on to win more tournaments and another major with the same lineup. So the timing of, Malmo happening right after the major, that affects something. Also, ESL 1 Cologne 2017 took place right before PGL Krakow Major. And so teams like NIP and Liquid, right, who had either failed to qualify for the major the week before the qualifier, or had failed, way before in the minor qualifier, performed well at this event, right? But their results at Cologne, they both made top 8. I believe they went 3-0, both of those 2 teams, in the Swiss group. That result wasn't as impactful due to the major happening, right? I mean, furthermore, like Astralis wasn't there, but that's team composition. Another thing that affects how you view results, okay, stand-ins. Does a team missing one of their key players? I mean, if you don't have all 5 of your players, then you can't, have the same expectation. And so results for your team and for other teams are going to be different, right? At the upcoming E-League Major, Liquid will be using Zeus, SK will be using Phelps, and Flash will be using Karsa. All 3 of them aren't members of the normal 5-man wanted roster. Flash is a little different because China, but Karsa is basically like a stand-in. There's also other extenuating circumstances that, will affect how results are viewed. At MLG Columbus, Olafmeister and Guardian both had arm injuries, which affected their play in the tournament. Olafmeister in his quarterfinal match against Astralis, he didn't play well, they got wrecked. Guardian, in the grand final, he had to quadruple his sensitivity or something to be able to play without the pain. Guess what? Na'Vi got wrecked in the grand final. Now, to tie this together, right? Here, actually, I'm gonna be adding in things to my schedule right now for what to say. So to tie this into the rankings that we know and love, I'm going to mention them by name now: Thorin and HLTV. We're going to be looking at all these factors, right, that I've listed here and how they tie into these rankings. Okay, Thorin. He looks at the last 3 months. He looks at only LAN matches. All right? Those are his, stipulations. Okay, and so he orders teams by accomplishments, achievements, who has the best in most of them over that time span. That's what he does. And because he's one of the top experts of the game, whether you want to say it or not, he is, his opinion and what he weights tournaments as and results as does have value. And it is something that is worth looking at, right? Now, I'm going to bring this back after I talk about HLTV. HLTV's ranking is a lot more complex than Thorn's ranking, as it's supposed to be. Like, that's part of its intention, is to be, quite complex and include a lot of factors. Now, Thorn's ranking tells you, okay, who is the most accomplished teams over the last 3 months on LAN. That's just what that's what it tells you. It doesn't tell you who the best team is right now, despite what you might think. HLTVs looks at a multitude of things, right? It has 3 different sub-rankings. I'm going to explain how it works to you in case you don't know. You can go view this. This is all public viewing information. 3 different sub-rankings. Achievements. All LAN results for the past year. I believe. If I'm wrong, then I'll take it back. But last year, all LANs for last year with decay over time and adjustment for the roster. So as long as you keep 3 out of 5, you keep the results. But it divides the points according to how much of the roster you have left. Okay, that's the achievement sub-ranking. The form sub-ranking is all results online and LAN for the past week. And then recent LAN sub-ranking is all LAN results in the last 3 months, weighted equally, but adjusted for lineup. So if you have 3/5 or 4/5 of the lineup, it subtracts points. And so it includes all these together to include the ranking. So the question is, okay, what is HLTV's ranking telling you? Okay, we know what Thorn's ranking is telling us. Who is the most accomplished / best team over the last 3 months on LAN? That's what we're saying, okay? Or that's what his is saying. HLTV's, okay, is it telling you that though? Is it telling you who the best team over the last 3 months is? Well, no, it's not. Because the form sub-ranking is looking at just the last week. And the achievement sub-ranking is looking at a whole year's worth of results. So it can't be telling you that. It's not telling you who the best team is right now. Because, I mean, why would it include results from a year ago to tell you who the best is right now? So it's not, the point is, it's not entirely clear what HLTV is telling you. But the important thing is, it's not important what it's actually telling you for this video. The important thing is, it's telling you a different thing than what Thorn's ranking is telling you. They are not telling you the same thing. When SK is placed as number 1 on HLTV's ranking, and FaZe is placed as number 1 in Thorn's ranking, those are not directly comparable placings. A number 1 on Thorn's ranking and a number 1 on HLTV's ranking do not mean the same thing. Neither of them mean that SK or FaZe is the best team now, right now. Neither of them mean that, by the way. But they also don't mean that, they're the best over the last 3 months. They both don't say that, right? They say different things. Now, I want to tie this into the topic of objectivity, right? Which, okay, I need to pull this up so I can, get my words right here. So, for a ranking to be objective, which it can't be. A ranking cannot be objective, by the way. That is just a thing that can't exist, sadly. Just like you can't do a ranking with 0 time, you can't do a ranking completely objectively. Because as I said before, there are such a large amount of factors that go in to how you can weight a result that there is just no way for it to be objective. There's always going to be a subjective factor. Now, the reason Thorns holds up is because he's an expert. He is widely regarded as one of the most knowledgeable people in CSGO, okay? That's fine. HLTV, likewise, is also Petter, who I believe does most of the rankings, he's also regarded as one of the best minds in the game. Now, people say that because you have a computer do the calculations for you, that somehow that makes it objective, that they can't favor one tournament over the other, which, I mean, isn't the case, obviously. That doesn't make any sense. Like, HLTV's created a formula. The person has created a formula on how the computer will rank things, how it will do calculations. Okay, so the coder gets to say, okay, I want the prize pool to affect the tournament this much. I want, how many teams were in it to affect it this much. And by the way, I don't even think HLTV goes to this much depth, right? They have, on their thing, they have online, they have LAN, and then they have big events. I'm pretty sure that, I don't know how the ranking works truly inside. I just think it's just those three categories, and those have different weights. And of course, majors, right? So if you're just looking at online, it has some weight in the form sub-ranking, obviously. All LANs, so LANs like a DreamHack Open, have some sort of weight. All the big events have the same weight, right? And then the majors have special weight. So does the ESL Pro League finals that have like 600,000 prize pool and 12 teams, is that worth the same as IM Sydney with $200,000 and 8 teams? And the formats are different. One used Swiss group, one used round robin, right? So these things don't, obviously the computer cannot have this amount of nuance. The computer can't look at the stand-ins and say, okay, well, this stand-in versus this stand-in in this team, right? So is Zeus standing in for Liquid the same as Stewie2K standing in for Liquid at a tournament? Well, no. How's the computer going to know the difference between them? You can say, okay, they had a stand-in, right? So a computer ranking can't be objective in this sense. If you want to truly be objective, you have to take in all of the different factors. You have to consider them all. And you have to, accurately weight all of those factors, right? So by actively not including certain factors from the decision process, that is by definition subjective. You're saying, okay, I can't distinguish different stand-ins from each other. I obviously can't put in extenuating circumstances into results. I can't say, okay, a 2-team tournament is going to be different from a 16-team tournament, right? Now, it's not like they're bad for doing it. It's just that they can't. And obviously, the ranking should be viewed through this lens, right? So Thorin does attempt to look at all of those things. Now, granted, he's just one person, right? And he's not perfect, as many people know. And so he's not always going to weight, or he's never going to weight things the perfect way. No one's going to weight them perfectly. The point is that HLTV doesn't have any sort of advantage in this sense. Just because the programmer said, okay, the computer, this is how you're going to do stuff, it isn't really different than Thorin just doing it by himself instead of through a computer. Either way, key takeaways. This video has been way too long. Key takeaways. Not all rankings are power rankings. Very few rankings tell you who the best is right now. Neither HLTV nor Thorin do this. Neither are telling you this. Second takeaway. There's no reason for these two rankings to be compared in the way that they are. They don't tell you the same thing. They tell you very different things. Neither of them tell you the best is right now. But even against each other, they're not telling you the same thing. You can just look at how the rankings are determined, and you can just clearly see it. Like, this isn't hidden in any way. Third thing is, there is no objectivity when it comes to rankings. Like, is not a thing. So, I don't know why people talk about that. There is no, like, God-given commandments for how to weight every different aspect of a tournament. It's like, okay, I have my tablet here that I got from, like, God, from Valve. Not even from Valve, just straight up from God, because this applies to anything. It's like, okay, if Twist stands in for Cloud9 at this particular event, in all these circumstances, this is the value that is associated with that stand-in. And that is how you will, get the correct value for Cloud9's placing at that tournament. No. Humans create the value based on their perception of how important these aspects are to a tournament, right? There's no objectivity. But anyway, everyone's just completely retarded. Everyone is just idiotic. Please stop. It's time to stop. Learn what a ranking is. And we're done.